Hola estudiantes, feliz 5 de Mayo. Hoy es el 5 de Mayo. Happy 5th of May, also known as Cinco de Mayo. And today, in lots of classes, in your Spanish classes, in student council, in dance classes, in Green Thumbs, in select art classes, we are going to, and a couple select study skills as well, and cheer. I think I hit them all. I don't know. It's a lot of y'all that's going to be coming to say hi to me and watching this crazy video. And yes, I just YOLO and we full send on the first recording. And I'm at home in my workout area. And if any kid comes in of mine, whatever, we're just going to say hi. Anyways, it's the 5th of May. All of y'all are going to be coming into my room, but not until we learn a little bit about this celebration that we're going to be celebrating today. So today's 5th of May, and it is what a lot of people think to believe is Mexico's Independence Day. And I promise you, it's not Mexico's Independence Day. It's actually a celebration of a win. And who doesn't need to celebrate a win? I mean, we have our boys volleyball team that just took second in state. We have our ballroom team that are national champions for the 4th year in a row. We have students that do amazing things. And sometimes we don't get to celebrate those wins, or maybe the wins don't get recognized in a way that we want them to get recognized. So today's kind of a day to embrace just winning. But how did it get started? Well, long time ago, like once upon a time in the 1800s, it was actually in September of 1815, Father Hidalgo rang the church bell, ding, 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 ding. And when he rang that church bell, he called to arms. And notice I'm in September of 1815, which this is the backstory. Thank you, Doofenshmirtz, for making everyone aware of what we need as a backstory. Back to the backstory. Side quest. Here we go. Anyways, 1865, Father Hidalgo, he rang the bell at the church, started the Mexico independence, Mexico's Revolutionary War against Spain so they could get their independence. And it took a little bit of time, but, hey, they won. Woohoo! And they freed themselves from Mama Spain, as we like to call it, Big Mommy Spain. They freed themselves. And about roughly 50 years later, of all places in the world, here comes France. France is like, we want a piece of the action. Why? Because Mexico had gold. Mexico had two forms of gold. They had corn gold, and then they had gold. And of course, Europe wanted both kinds because, it's cool stuff to have. So long time ago, not as long as when our story first started, but still a long time ago, in 1862, in a small town called Puebla, in Mexico, General Ignacio Zaragoza and his troops took on some of France's finest. But there was no parlez-vous français in Puebla. There was about 2,000 Mexican soldiers that took on about 6,000 of France's finest, and which means, the numbers were not in Mexico's favor. But sometimes you don't need the numbers. Sometimes you just need the reason to not let someone win. And Mexico had that. They're like, we've been through enough with you Europeans. We don't care if it's English. We don't care if it's Spanish. We don't care if it's French. We don't care who you are. Get out of our lane. Get out of our country. So anyways, Mexico might have lost the overall war that was going on at this time, but they won the Battle of Puebla. This win happened on Cinco de Mayo. Imagine that. Now here's the thing. If I were going to look at the United States map, if I were to look at the map of the United States, Mexico makes like a mermaid tail underneath the U.S. It comes down and it curls up into the Gulf of Mexico. And then we have the 7 that is Florida meeting the tail over here with, the Gulf of Mexico. But we have the West Coast. Okay, so let's just pretend this picture's the West Coast, and Texas sits on top of Mexico. So does Arizona. So does a little bit of California, but we're talking the West Coast, okay? And the West Coast of the U.S. had something that the rest of the world didn't have. And again, that was gold. The real kind, not the corn kind. The corn kind grows in Central America and central of the United States. But everyone was going west to search for gold, the real kind. And we somehow heard about this win. Now, the people who were like panhandling for gold at this time, they needed a reason for a win. They were hot, they were tired, they were thirsty. There was a lot of craziness going on the other side of the Mississippi River, and we were getting a lot of, this was right before, we're talking in the 1860s, right before the American Civil War. So it was just a crazy time in the United States. And this westward expansion was happening, but these people, they were finding gold, but they weren't finding gold. And so, yeah, it turned into one of those things like, look, someone won. So the Battle of Puebla won in 1862 on Cinco de Mayo. The very first Cinco de Mayo celebration in the United States happened in 1863, and it took place in California. And believe it or not, California, of all places, California. And California at this point of time was made up by the French, by Asians, by Mexicans, by Texans, by Arizonans. There was just this huge melting mixture pot of not Mexicans, really. I mean, we had Mexican Americans, but it was just the actual demographic of America being the melting pot that is the United States. And they celebrated the win. Let's fast forward sometimes to the 1930s. 1930s, FDR established what's called the Good Neighbor Policy. And this was done to create good relationships between our border countries of the United States. So we're talking Canada, we're talking Mexico, we're talking whatever Alaska's attached to, the French Polynesians. We're trying to make friends with all of our neighbors because it's the 1930s and we were hard up because of the Great Depression that was going on in the United States. But anyways, he made this good neighbor policy, and he's like, you know what? Let's just really celebrate Cinco de Mayo. I saw you. She just hopped down the stairs. Oh, that was Aiden.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm just working. It's fine. At least we're not saying bad language. Anyways, like I said, full send. So 1930s, FDR was like, okay, cool. We got it. We're going to celebrate our neighbors to the south of us, of the border. And bye, bro. You couldn't have been any more obvious on the exit. Sorry about that. Anyways, and he said, we're going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo first. Now, let's talk about the facts. Do you know who does not celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Mexico. Mexico doesn't celebrate Cinco de Mayo. They do in Puebla. In Puebla, they have a little itty bitty celebration, like, woohoo, we won, back to work. But in the U.S., we take it to heart. This weekend, I made it a point to go out and about to see, what was the festivities and things about in the Salt Lake Valley. I saw dancing. I saw a parade. I saw grocery store sales like it was nobody's business. But they don't celebrate in Mexico. The number one state that celebrates is actually Colorado, of all places. Our neighbor to the east. They don't have school tomorrow. Well, it's today. I'm recording this on Sunday, but they don't have school on Monday. They don't have school today because they shut down cities to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. There are 12 states in the United States who celebrate Cinco de Mayo so good. They don't have school either. I mean, we're having a party. We need to celebrate a win. And that's kind of what Cinco de Mayo embraces is celebrating a win. How do we celebrate it? Celebrate a win? Well, how do we celebrate anything? We do it with friends. We do it with family. We do it with food. We do it with a fiesta. And all of these things are going to happen today as you come in my classroom, as you visit the outside to break piñatas, as you are welcomed in through video from other classes and pictures to celebrate all of this together. But it is a day that we celebrate. We celebrate the military of Mexico, and we celebrate a win. So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you enjoy all the videos. And most of all, I hope you enjoy the food. Be on your bestest behavior. Be mindful of your champs. And I'll see you soon. And Feliz Cinco de Mayo.